Digital citizenship is key. Understanding how you're projecting yourself online, how you're talking to people, how you're interacting, pushing that digital citizenship component, teaching students what's right and what's wrong, how parents can support, how teachers, and really how people can come together as a community in support of students' healthy activities online.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast, your trusted source for real-world tactics that keep students safe and help them to shine online. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. Each week, I sit down with K-12 superintendents, district leaders, and community voices who are shaping digital safety. We discuss wins, struggles, and strategies used to guide students so they can be safe and successful online.
Hello, my name is Julie Garcia, and I'm the Senior Director of Future Ready Learning for the San Diego Unified School District. We represent about 175 schools and close to 95,000 students.
Hi, my name is Derek Suzuki. I am the Program Manager for the Instructional Technology Department in the San Diego Unified School District.
Welcome to both of you. It's so great to have you here today. And hello to our amazing audience nationwide. Remember, Smart Social is all about keeping your kids safe on social media so they can someday shine online. Today is a bunch of tips and tactics that we're going to learn from our guest experts. And these are ideas you can choose to use or set aside for a future time when it might be helpful for your classroom or your family. All right, whether you're a parent or a superintendent or anyone in between, today's all about positive tips you can use at home. All right, so welcome to my guests. I'm excited to ask you a few questions. Now, as you might know, we interviewed a lot of district leaders such as yourself all over the country. Absolutely humbling. We're honored that they would spend time with us, about 240 district leaders in about 43 plus states. And we've heard some trends, and I'd love to get your advice and ideas. We're hearing some trends in the 25-26 school year. And of course, this isn't all of them, but here's some of the top 6 we're hearing about. Hidden direct messages. We're hearing dangerous TikTok challenges, which have been happening for about the last 5 years during COVID. Group text messages. Students are now chatting with AI or unknown people and so on. There's inappropriate content, which may start off campus and become a problem for the principals and schools on campus on Monday morning. And we're also hearing about screen time phone addiction and how it's really causing a lot of these. And if screen time phone addiction wasn't a problem, then a lot of this might melt away. Julie, I'd love to get your feedback first on this. Out of what you see on the screen, or maybe we're missing one, and you can give me feedback. For our audience, you know I'm going to be taking copious notes because these experts are teaching us how to be the world's best at helping kids. So Julie, I'd love to get your feedback. What trends are you seeing, and what can we learn about your community?
So we're seeing several trends here in San Diego Unified School District, a lot of inappropriate content, and we're starting to see some students chatting with AI, and we've certainly seen teachers, parents, and even students concerned about screen time. We've had a student come and present to our Board of Education about screen time being an issue for the student and their peers. So I think a lot of this we're seeing throughout our institution. And we're really trying to get in front of it with some digital citizenship and trying to work with students on how to behave online.
You know, that's fascinating, Julie. I want to double click into your answer there. What was a key takeaway from the student's presentation to your board about what the student recommended we can do to support students to lower their screen time?
So this particular student was focused a lot on computer and classwork screen time. So that really caused us some pause to go back and think about what our instruction was looking like. How were we modeling the use of our digital tools with our students? Was there time built into the classroom for breaks? Was there some hands-on work, some discussion work mixed in with the computer work in our classrooms? And I think that's true for our students on social media. If they're at home, if they're on their device at home, how are we as parents encouraging our students to take those breaks, to go outside, to go for a walk, to have a conversation? It's really this kind of media life balance that I think we're all kind of still working towards.
So true. And for all of our audience who's watching right now, you know that nationwide, a lot of communities will say, hey, our community is unique in this way, and we understand. But in addition, as Julie just highlighted, every kid is either begging for one of these or already has one of these and is begging for some of the apps on it, or really trying to beg their parents to help them manage it. So I love the vulnerability. Derek, I want to get over to you. Out of what you see on the screen, what's a concern that you're hearing about, a challenge, or maybe something in the community that we need to know about?
So I think in terms of how it's affected San Diego Unified, our district is a one-to-one district. And so that means that every student in our district gets the opportunity to take home a device to use it, in school as well as at home. And one of the key things that we encountered with a TikTok challenge recently was where they were trying to set it on fire. And so, these challenges definitely are something that we're aware of. And unfortunately, for most of us, it's a reactive thing because we find out about it. And the next thing you know, it's in our schools and it's affecting not only the device, but their classwork, right? Because that's the main point of having a device, that their curriculum and their materials are all there as well. And so a lot of the things that we see on this chart is really hones in well or is complemented well by the necessity for digital citizenship. And so what we try to do, in our school district is with our family engagement office, when we're talking from the district level, we partner with them to bring some education to our parents and our community around what things parents can do to kind of bridge that gap between school and home around responsible use of technology and, addressing some of these social media concerns. And to Julie's point around our student, talking to the board, one of our board members did have a family engagement session with the parents and community after that, where we did invite some psychiatrists on a panel to kind of address this. And I talked toward the digital citizenship piece. But I think what it really comes down to is probably holistic effort from both schools and community, like Julie was mentioning, to pick up both sides of the digital citizenship effort, where we can start it in schools, have it continue at home, and hopefully build that critical mass. As we start talking about AI, things are going to get either better or worse, depending on your point of view. But what stays consistent are the fundamental things in digital citizenship. And even part of digital citizenship is that critical part about digital health and wellness. And so, the way that we put down our devices, even, it's part of digital citizenship. So I think what it really comes down to is we do see these, a lot of times our district has to be reactive because it comes from externally, an external source. And the only thing we can try and do is to get ahead of it, is to kind of make sure that we are consistently talking about digital citizenship with our students.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, that Chromebook challenge where kids can put paper clips in the USB little plug and essentially overheat the Chromebook and start it on fire was definitely a problem and caused a lot of school districts nationwide to have some issues. The next question I have for you, Julie, we're going to bounce over to you. How do you think a teacher, maybe nationwide, any kind of teacher, not just in your community, could possibly utilize AI to help tutor their students or help in the classroom?
So there are so many ways that teachers can utilize AI, and I think we're just on the cusp of all of the possibilities, and it's actually really, really exciting. Moving beyond just the tutor piece, I know that teachers are using AI to create better lesson plans that reach individual students' needs. How do I take what it is that I already love and do, but how do I make it better so that students that speak a different language or that need additional supports, AI can help me with those strategies immediately. We've also seen AI with student use, right? So not just in lesson planning and helping teachers become more efficient and having access to more strategies. We have a great example of a teacher that used AI as an original, as a starting point for feedback on writing. And it was interesting. We got a little feedback from the media on this one. It was, oh no, San Diego Unified is using AI to grade students' papers. But really what it was that initial feedback on an essay, which allowed a teacher to then really go and differentiate and go meet with some of the other students that needed the additional help, while those students were getting the general feedback from AI. So what it really did is allow this particular teacher to have more time to spend with those students that needed that intense or extra support. And Derek has a great example of another teacher and how she used AI to help kids understand how to not cheat or to not cheat, if Derek wants to share that story.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. So one of our really great teachers in our high schools, English teacher, had a example of how she used AI to kind of let their students know what AI is capable of and what it isn't so far. And so the way that she did that was she put together a number of student written papers and she threw in an AI generated paper. And she had the students get into groups and evaluate them and then figure out, hey, which one of these 4 papers was written by AI? And of course, students all picked the right answer and they figured out that this one paper was AI written and they all had the same answer. And she said, that's great. So if you can figure it out, you think I can figure it out? Of course I can. And so the concept there, though, is that understanding, that there is power in AI and the fact that you can use it for good, again, too, but maybe within, the teacher's understanding of AI, how they can use it to help scaffold their learning or give them the starting point and understanding that it's not meant to use for the complete work or that they're doing. And to Julie's point, also, we have some really great teachers, even in our elementary schools, that are using AI. And for many of us that are in the know, it's like, hey, wait, how can they use an AI tool being that young? And with this class, it was a class of second graders. It was the teacher that was facilitating the use of AI with her students, where she was generating some story ideas based on their input. And from that input, the students had generated a story with their characters, and they started to use their critical thinking by figuring out what elements of that story were good that AI generated and what weren't. And they were able to change that story, put it into another program that we also use called Book Creator, generate images and videos, and then make that story come to life. And so even for our younger students that are, in the classrooms where they can't directly use AI, the teacher can definitely become that facilitator to help them understand what is a prompt, the elements of what AI becomes and is. And so starting their journey on using AI in a critical way rather than something just for frivolous use.
Such great examples. I love that. The next question I have for you is, what's the most common fear you might hear from teachers or staff around students using AI?
When we first started working with AI, it was cheating. Are students going to cheat? And I am a former math teacher, so you can imagine what it's like to, think about what does math teaching look like when students can just plug the problem into AI and have it solve the problem for them. So the cheating is a factor. And we also hear teachers, at first they were saying, what if we get replaced by AI, right? What if AI replaces us in our positions? And so to answer both of those, Derek, I hope I didn't steal your thunder on one of these. I came with 2 responses. I hope that's okay. But as far as the math cheating or even cheating, like the example that Derek gave, but in math, it's really forcing some of us to look at the way we give students tasks and how do we give our task different? How do we give them a task where they even use AI to solve the problem, but then explain it or to show a real world application or how to analyze the results that they get from AI? And then, of course, when I talk to teachers and they say, oh, is my job going to be replaced as a teacher with AI? And I truly believe that in education, our sole job is to connect with students, to love students, and to be in community with students. And so that's something that is going to be very challenging to replace with AI.
So true. So true. Derek?
Yeah. It's interesting going out to support our sites, working with the teachers and giving them some understanding, foundational understanding of AI. I didn't expect to find, but at every session that I've gone to so far, someone raises the fear or concern about the environmental impact of the use of AI. And so I did not really expect, we have such a wide range of experience with AI when we go out to our sites. Our teachers have zero experience to people that are using it all the time. But it is something that is not only coming from our teachers, but our students as well. And so this kind of fear of us at this point, only a few students or a few people, relatively speaking, are using these AI tools, but they're thinking ahead as to what happens when we get 80 or 90% of people using this tool, at a constant rate, what does that look like for the environment? What kind of impact does that have? So, outside of some of these, more personal concerns, some of the teachers and again, too, some of the students are really thinking about what is that environmental impact, the global impact of what AI is going to be bringing about.
Yeah, I was sitting with my family probably 4 to 6 weeks ago, and one of my nephews said that. He said, he's a teenager in high school, and he said, I don't use ChatGPT because the water it wastes. He was told that it wastes a lot of water. And I said, well, and I happen to be I'm 1/3 of an engineer. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. And we had a dialogue, and he thought it was an open loop water system. And so what that means is like it evaporates and it all goes away and it like wastes water. And it's like, no, it's actually closed loop. And let me show you how that works. It's a valid concern. The power is important, that we don't waste all these things. But I do love what you're bringing up. And I do encourage any parents watching right now, have your kids really look at the source rather than listen to the fear of, okay, what is the environmental impact? How do we work on that? How do we cognizant of that? Because once I taught him about how, the water goes through a radiator and then it comes back out and goes through the servers and it doesn't lose it. It doesn't evaporate. The only way a city would approve it is this way. You know what I mean? And just like your car has a closed loop water no evaporation. It's a radiator and the engine and so on, cooling system. So I'm hearing that more and more. And I think it's valid. But I also encourage all of our listeners, go directly to the source and find out what that is, because there may be something you can do to lower the impact And also our chips are getting more efficient. We do need to work on the models being more efficient, right? I'm constantly monitoring that. But I agree with you. That is something the students are worried about. But he was so fearful of even going to AI because he thought all the water's evaporating when in that case, it wasn't at all. Now, does he use a lot of power? Yes. Do we need to work on that? Absolutely. I'm all for the environment. But I thought that was fascinating. Okay. So the next question I have for you. And what do we do to increase learning and reduce cheating? I think you both kind of hit on that. My bad. I forgot to hit that, but there's the secret punchline is parents and educators that are watching. There is a way, and Julie really got to this. There's so many good things. We need to increase learning, reduce cheating. And what Julie was kind of saying without saying is, how do we, and I've heard a lot of districts do this, how do we take the lesson plan is and turn it into a song or turn it into a poem or turn it into something different so we can learn it different ways, right? Mm-hmm. Super exciting. Okay, my next question. Julie, in conversations with staff in your community, what do you hear them say is the hardest to keep up with? Is it social media shifts, AI, or student screen time habits?
I think it's a tie between AI and student screen habits, only because I don't know that staff necessarily... I think they understand about social media and shifts, but at times they feel like it's my job to stay focused on instruction. And I believe that AI and screen habits have the biggest impact on instruction. Right now, I would say AI. Our teachers are all over the place with some, will go out to work with school sites, and some teachers really don't know what AI is, and other people are doing everything in AI. And so everybody's at a very different place as far as how we're using it and what they should do with it. Some people are like, go get them. I'm going to do everything using AI. And some people are afraid to even touch it. Yeah. And then, screen habits is, like I said, a close second. If you think of when I went back earlier in the podcast, we were talking about teachers finding that balance of tech use, with screen time. And I kind of think that our experience during COVID got teachers very used to putting teachers on devices. And so getting back to that blend of activities is challenging, right? And it's hard in a classroom situation to balance the technology, the discussion. It's a lot for teachers to wrap their arms around with their students.
So true. Derek, I'd love to hear from you as well. Out of these 3 bullets, which one do you think is the hardest to keep up with for your staff?
Currently for social media shifts, we've had a movement in our district IT where they're they've actually implemented blocking most of these social media apps or access during the school day, especially. And some of that does extend beyond the school day if they're using a district computer or they are using a district ID to log in. And so, I think some of that is where, because it's been around for a bit, they kind of have a little bit better handle on what they can, kind of monitor and things. So, when it comes to AI, it's definitely something, even in, currently we're looking to pass a board policy for our our AI use in our district and our guidelines that we had an AI task force created by our department. And what we're looking at is trying to figure out, how AI is going to be used in our district responsibility. And, we kind of taken our first steps, but even around that, like what kind of monitoring or what kind of systems do we have in place? Because our district is so large, and what we really empower our schools to do is, because they know their community, a lot of the tools that they use are pretty independent from the district wide. And so we have very few tools that are centrally funded and used. And so one of the challenges like this, when you're talking with some of our staff, is that they might have a tool that we're not even familiar with. It's not something that the district is using. And so that really opens up a lot of questions around transparency and communication with not only the district, but with your community as well. And so, from a district standpoint, what are we trying to keep up with is like, what are the tools being used at each school site? And so making sure that those tools and those things are being used obviously in the right way, and making sure parents are aware of it. And student screen habits, I think that's just something that's been for as long as we've been using, our devices in our classrooms. So I think, honestly, it probably is around AI right now, because there are I think students have more of an advantage, especially over our teachers that maybe are really hesitant or reluctant to kind of even put their foot in the water around it. So I think that because that's the new kid on the block and will be for a while, I think it's probably the hardest to keep up with at this point.
Yeah, very well said. Okay. Last question before we talk about something else. We often hear principals say they feel pulled in many directions when it comes to digital safety and engagement. How can parents better partner with school staff to support students around screen time and social media safety, Julie?
Yeah. So again, they're very, very busy. We here at Central Office are always trying to find how best we can support them. Parents partnering with school staff is it. To partner with the principal and school staff. How are you utilizing your coffee with the principals, your PTSA or your foundation meetings? How are you bringing experiences in for parents to understand? I think a lot of our parents still don't understand how to monitor, how to talk to their kids about social media. Really, it's challenging, especially as they get into those teenage years. The older students it's harder to connect with them. I think just joining and partnering with the principal is essential. Bringing in even resources. Our department loves Common Sense Media, and using resources there, having parent groups, and just being as proactive and supporting the principals and the teachers, I think is key. I might also suggest bringing in teachers to ask teachers how they can feel supported, because teachers also hear a lot during the school day.
Yeah, so well said. So for our audience, remember, we host weekly parent evening engagement events all about the digital safety questions that parents have nationwide. A question that we got last week is, hey, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger? Well, let's hear directly from a student about how she might help a friend recognize these red flags.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it, because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start. If they feel a sense of being uncomfortable, or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
Parents, remember, we host weekly free parent events and replays. Come on out to one of them. We do big giveaways. If you come on out, you're automatically entered for a chance to win a Kindle, 3D printer, Bluetooth speaker, all these fun pieces of technology that can bring a family together. There's real teen-led video lessons like you just saw. So the teens are young and fun, teaching us the latest and greatest stuff. And then premium parent newsletter. And remember, parents, if you're struggling with anything, Smart Social has your back. We have the latest app guides for parents on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, Netflix, WhatsApp, and 450 more curated by real parents, our army of parents nationwide. And they're not only in English, but they're in Espanol, Mandarin, and 9 other languages. We have live events. This month is all about protecting your child's confidence before screens turn mean. It's really all about cyberbullying for the rest of the month. Next month, don't miss November, Snapchat and Instagram teen risks. A ton of teens are presenting, and you're going to get the best stuff. If you missed session 1, we've got session 2, session 3, and session 4 is in Espanol. So we'd love to have you out. Come on out for this. Okay, back to our experts. Julie, some districts have said that they wish they had more time to focus on student safety and parent engagement. What area would you tell other districts is the most important part to focus on to support parents?
So I think digital citizenship is key. Understanding how you're projecting yourself online, how you're talking to people, how you're interacting. That video really resonated with me as we move into the AI world with chatbots, and everything's getting the waters are getting a little muddy when it comes down to what we're seeing online, what we're saying online, and what we're absorbing online. So I think other districts really pushing that digital citizenship component, teaching students what's right and what's wrong, how parents can support, how teachers, and really how people can come together as a community in support of students' healthy activities online.
You're so right, Julie. There's, for all of our audience members, there are, it used to just be, oh, hey, there's stranger danger. I guess in the 80s, there was white vans. We'd be afraid of the free candy sign, right? Don't get in a white van if they say they have puppies or candy. And we all learned that. And now there's strangers and predators online, as you saw one of our teen interns talk about. And that's really dangerous. That's the predator outside of your house that wants to chat with your kids and exploit them. And there's other things that they do. Come to one of our parent night events and you'll learn about sextortion, just devastating. But now there's these AI chatbots. Character.ai is one of the big ones we teach on that is absolutely dangerous for your kids. And there's some stuff in the news that we're reporting on right now that kids are hurting themselves because of what they're trusting the chatbot to tell them, which is so devastating. I want to take this question over to Derek. What area would you tell other districts is the most important part to focus on to support parents?
Yeah, the hard part about it, and I have a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old. And so, speaking from experience, it is really about talking to them about safety, digital safety, and understanding what's appropriate to share and what's not appropriate to share. And kind of, everything that we heard the students say is really great. I think to piggyback onto our last topic as well, I know for my child's school, the police department comes out and has a cybersecurity team or a digital safety team. Our unified also, we partner with our family engagement office to provide our take on digital safety and wellness, but then they also bring in the San Diego Police Department. Their team comes in and talks. And so I think, it's all of a really integral part, like everything from, the screen time and all of this stuff. But, when we're talking about how much our children, especially because with the rise of AI now, how even if the person that you're communicating is not a real person, but a virtual person, like how you were mentioning, the danger of emotionally attaching yourself to something that might be not looking out for you in its best interest, which is what weird to say about some kind of a chatbot. But we've heard examples where, the student is actually asking the chatbot, hey, I think I'm going to, leave this clue for my parents because it's like a cry for help. And the chatbot actually says, no, just talk to me. That's scary. And it's but what it comes down to is, are you spreading that knowledge to the parents so they can have these conversations with the students? And whatever way, shape, or form, if the administrator can't do it, what kind of county or, district supports are there? What can you do to reach out as a parent? What can you do to reach out to your local law enforcement? If you're really concerned about it, you can be the catalyst, right? And support your school and your community.
Yeah, so well said. It's scary out there right now. AI wants to be the thing to fix everything. So devastating when it tries to do that. So Julie, district leaders tell us that parent engagement helps them get ahead of future social media problems that might exist. What parent or student preventative education would you recommend to other school districts to get ahead of these problems before they happen on campus?
So again, that digital citizenship is so key. It starts at a very young age. I've talked to kindergarten teachers and they say things like, "Oh, my kids, they don't use technology. Why do I need to teach them digital citizenship or media literacy?" But you can't start them too young. Start talking to students about how they interact with people online, how you talk to people online. The students our small children are on apps on the phones, right? We held that up earlier, and we see students at a very young age. A lot of these apps sometimes connect with other children, but just teaching them, what are you typing? How are you presenting yourself? How are you interacting? Making sure that, because how you teach a child to act in person should be the same way that they're going to act online. And start young. And again, just digital citizenship. What is your digital footprint? What are you putting out there for others to see? And does that make you as a person and your family reflect well among your community?
Well said. Derek, what parent or student preventative education would you suggest?
I'm echoing Julie. Obviously, the digital citizenship is a huge piece. And again, too, starting at a very young age for our district, especially, we have digital citizenship lessons for our teachers from grade bands, from K all the way to 12. And the other thing is these, the sources that you provided on your site, as well as other sources, are a great place for parents to independently get involved. But it really is about kind of leveraging whatever mechanisms you have to go out and talk to people, whether it's school site-based or it's district-wide, getting that, or even putting, asynchronous kinds of things on your district website even, because what we're finding too is everyone learns in their own way. The more ways that you can provide this information to parents, you'll hopefully hit them all. So having the in-person is one thing, but then you don't get everyone. Having a paper that goes home, you don't get everyone, but if you start to, flood the market with every single way of and communicating, because you realize it's an important thing, it's about your child's health, then I think you can reach that, reach a point where hopefully you're getting to most of them, if not all.
So well said. Julie and Derek, you both have taken a lot of time out of your really busy day to join us. Thank you to both of you for taking time to present to our audience.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was fun. Enjoyed it, Josh.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. And to all of our audience members, remember these tips and techniques. We hope that you'll use them, share them with a friend. And remember, the number one safety app in the world that we at smartsocial.com believe can help your kids is a rich and ongoing conversation. So you have that rich dialogue and friendship with your kids. So you're constantly reminding them that if they see anything inappropriate online, they can come to you or another trusted parent or guardian that you approve. It could be an aunt or an uncle, but that ongoing dialogue is the only thing that we're finding that helps your kids to navigate this crazy digital world we live in. Parents, whenever you're posting online, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite, because your kids will model what you do online. I'm Josh Oates, the founder of smartsocial.com. Thanks for listening to this episode. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for spending time with the smartsocial.com podcast. If today's insights were useful, please share the episode with a fellow parent or educator and subscribe so you never miss our next conversation. And parents, make sure to join one of our next live online events each week to keep your family safe and also enter for a chance to win cool prizes. You can learn more at smartsocial.com. I'm your host, Josh Oakes, and parents, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite, because your kids are watching what you're doing online. I'll see you on the next episode.